Okay, can you hear me now? No sound. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? No sound. Okay. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Hang on. Okay, can you hear me now? No sound. You can hear me now. Okay. I hear you. All is well. Yes. Hello, everyone. Awesome. Okay. Whew. Whew. I had to mute the YouTube thing and just be on the Hangout. So, but it's going in a loop. It works on Chrome now. It was better before. Hearing you. The sound is going in a loop. It should be okay now because the sound is worse. Okay, I'm going to try and put my headphones in again and we'll see how that goes. Lots of sound. We hear you. It's working now. No, it's good now. Yes, it's good now. Okay. All is well. The sound is good. It's fine now. Okay now. It's fine here. Everything. Okay. I think it's hard to please all the people all the time, but I think we're getting quite a few yeses. So I think I've got everything plugged in properly. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. And when I see all of your names showing up, so many people I know, it's just such a wonderful, wonderful group that we have going here. And I just want to give you my appreciation for being so diligent in your practice, for showing up and joining me in these live streaming events. Just like you, I look forward to them. They are an important part of my life. And even though I have said that in 2019, I may change the format, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to be doing live presentations. It may just give me the opportunity to change things up a little bit. So I'm going to have a little sip of tea from my huge cup. I actually made this myself. It's very ugly, I know. But I was being creative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Jesus through, and he'll give us his introduction for today and what he wants us to think about. Okay, see you in a bit. You are blessed beings, and I am that one that you know as Jesus. And as our dear one has so rightly said, we applaud you all for showing up so regularly, not only now in this live streaming event, this global network creating event, but you are showing up in your practices, your individual practices. This is so important right now. This is the greatest gift that each of you can give to not only yourselves, but to your fellow brothers and sisters, your planet, the evolutionary cycle that is escalating as this planet evolves. And as travelers on this planet, you are evolving too. You are evolving. You are calling out for transformation. You are calling out for change. Every time you see a video that shows you the garbage in the oceans around the world and you feel that desire for cleanliness, you are praying for change. Every time you see another notification that another shooting has happened in the schools of your United States, you want change, and you can see what's beginning to happen on the ground in your world. Beings are starting to insist on change. They are not taking a back seat anymore. They are not accepting the old systems anymore. And this wave of young people that are taking to the streets, that are marching for safety in the United States is going to grow. This movement is going to grow because they do not believe in the old system the way that many of you have believed in the old system. Now, we are not saying that you're pro-gun, but you have been educated in the old system. And the wave of youngsters that is being represented on the streets in these demonstrations are the beings that decided to be incarnated at just the right time to usher in this new era on your planet. So this is how we want you to look at some of these things. We want you to say, I couldn't do it, but these young beings are able to, not because they are better, not because they are more valuable, not because they are bad or delinquent, but because that is their job. Their job is to not conform to the oppressive control systems that have been ruling your planet. Now, many light events are going to begin to be seen, whether that's aurora borealis or rainbows in the sky. Different lighting effects are going to become more visible as these energies that seem to be coming from your sun encounter your earth. Now, you have a very limited way of looking at the sun and light and life. It has been affected greatly. Your vision of what this experience is has been affected greatly by the scientific method that you have been instructed in, and the insistence by that scientific community that no non-physical or spiritual or consciousness elements are allowed in your education about these events, whether it be sunlight or moonlight or starlight or trees growing or worms or soil or pets or anything. There has only been allowed a strict materialistic view of everything. And this is why these events that are happening and are being talked about so much by channelers like our dear one and YouTube creators all around the planet, that is why this seems, we will say, so weird to many of you, and it seems unreal because you have actually been raised in a society that deems anything that is not completely predictable weird or unreal, and that anything that is associated with consciousness is not scientific. Now, that is not so, because your entire experience is based in consciousness. Scientists who are saying that consciousness cannot be taken into account are using their consciousness to make that statement. So you see how ridiculous it is to remove consciousness from the equation, from the life that you are experiencing on this plane at this time. So this is something that we want you to begin to realize is at play in your consciousness. We want you to remember that your education system and your society is based on fundamental untruths, that God is only active in your world, on your world, that there is a seemingly empty universe out there. This is really one of the fundamental beliefs of your society. And this is why the extraterrestrial element, again, makes you very uncomfortable. You have to remember that for millennia, your world was expressing a consciousness in the form of repressive religious systems that prevented the great connection between spirit and humanity. There was only a few places that this was allowed to take place, and this is why in your histories, the only people that had visions or revelatory experiences would be nuns or monks or very, very pious religious practitioners, because that was the only place that it was allowed to take place. So it seems as if visions and connections only happened to those who were nuns or Catholic students, because that was the only place that you didn't get killed for it. So there are prejudices that are indoctrinated into your society that really have to be addressed now. The phase of evolution that this society is going through is going to require all of you to understand certain things about yourselves. First of all, and you know this if you've read the books that this being has channeled, that you have been put in a very, very small, limited box. And your view of yourselves is extremely small. And of course, as you study the lessons of A Course in Miracles, as you have your energy upgrades, as you begin to channel, as you begin to have access to abilities that you didn't have access to before, you are starting to realize that you're capable of things that seem miraculous. Why do they seem miraculous? Well, because everybody who did them before was killed. Everybody who did them before was put in an institution or punished or deemed insane or a danger to society. This freedom now that you have to investigate your own energy systems, the encouragement that's coming from many other of your compatriots to meditate, to pay attention to your dreams, to listen to how you feel, to become more creative. You are beginning to align yourself with a true value system, but it is only the beginning. You are only 5-10% into these energy upgrades now. And so what many of you are beginning to feel, our dear one has been going through this a little bit. She has been suffering from tiredness, from a seeming lack of ambition or ability to focus. And we want to bring this subject up now because these are some of the side effects of increasing energies and further clarification of your mind. Now, for those of you that have been willing to do the lessons of A Course in Miracles and have been reading the books that this being has written and have been studying the text, doing your forgiveness practice, you will have eliminated some of the lower frequency beliefs and ideas from your mind. Many of you are seeing that you were far more judgmental than you thought you were, that you were far more fearful than you thought you were, that you had resentments that were lurking. Some of those lessons ask you to bring to mind the faces of people that you have resentments with, and some of you have been surprised that this face pops up so quickly. Somebody that you have not yet reached peace with, that you have not truly forgiven. Now, for those of you who have done this work, these escalating energies are now going to start working on those parts of your psyche that you have not yet looked at. And so what does this do? This brings up some chaotic feelings, and some of you have expressed concern about this. We want you to understand that whatever you have not yet dealt with is going to begin to become more active in your consciousness because you have repressed it and controlled it through whatever means that you have chosen. And we're not going to go into all those means. You know what they are. But now, as the energies surrounding you, the collective consciousness, the physiological environment, the physical environment, these areas are increasing in vibratory frequency. So that means whatever is lower frequency, heavier, is being shaken to the surface, literally and physically. So some of you are going to have what you would consider symptoms. Perhaps Perhaps a knee will start hurting. Perhaps a shoulder will start hurting. These are red flags to get you to look at that part of your energy system. So if you are having foot issues or hand issues, these are your first chakra centers, energy centers. These are applicable to that first chakra energy center. So you want to start looking at your issues around security, financial fear, families, tribal issues. These basic beliefs about your right to be here. That is what first chakra issues are. Now, we are going to say, seek out information specifically about chakras. There are many, many books. You can find many reputable books about the chakra system and begin to educate yourself more deeply about this subject now. Why? Because if you have something coming up in your physical body, if you have something coming up mentally and emotionally, you want to know what part of your energy system relates to that particular form. Remember, consciousness creates forms to express the level of consciousness that is at play right now. So for those of you that perhaps have had a lot of peace because of your studies, those of you that have had a lot of growth and happiness and increasing optimism, you may find in these increasing energies now that you are not feeling quite so happy. You are not feeling quite so joyful, but we don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't want you to say, well, this Course in Miracles business does not work because you are feeling these things. We want you to understand that the Course in Miracles training that you've had, however far you've gone in there, however much you have trained your mind so far, you must now use those principles to bring these negative beliefs and ideas to the surface for clearing. That is all that has to be done now. There doesn't have to be years and years of psychotherapy here. What we want you to understand is that if you are given a signal that your elbow hurts or your tummy hurts or your back hurts, find out what chakra is related to that particular part of the body. Look at the issues, the spiritual principles and issues that apply to that chakra center, and ask yourself, which one of these have I not dealt with yet? It's my relationship to my father. It's my financial fear. It's my obsession with the body. It's my fear of intimacy. It's my lack of love, self-love. You are all well educated now. You know what's going on in your own consciousness. And we want you now to understand that you must apply these principles to these challenges that are going to come your way. And when you feel a negative expression, tiredness, lethargy, lack of ambition, remember your body is trying to catch up to these increasing frequencies, and you must give it a little bit of time to do that. So rest when you can. Go out in nature when you can. Yes, going out in the light is very, very important right now. Getting your hands and your feet and your bottom on the earth, so important right now. Why? Because that is where the upgrade is. It's not on your computer, although we appreciate the irony of the fact that this material is coming to you through your computer. But we want you to really cut back on your use of technology at this time. Use your time on your computer for inspiration, for loving communication, but not idle entertainment. We would prefer that you turn your computer off in the evening, luxuriate in a warm bath, get yourself a good book to read that is inspiring, or get your colored pencils out, or do some meditation or some creative artwork. Talk to your friends, your family, but be present and be quieter. Why do we want you to be quieter? Well, we want you to be quieter so that you can discern the shifts and changes in your own psyche. If you are immersed in other people's ideas, constantly consuming movies and videos and these kinds of things, you are not going to catch the subtle shifts and changes in their early stages. You may not catch them until you're starting to feel quite yucky, until you're starting to feel quite fearful, or you're starting to feel quite angry or resentful or exhausted. The quieter your life is now, the better. The more contemplative you are, the better. Now, this does not mean that you have to become a monk, but what it means is be with your own consciousness, because it is going to be giving you feedback. It is going to be giving you some little red flags. It's going to be saying to you, pay attention to me because I have something to say. So this is really what we want you to focus on now. Pick only that which is nutritious in your food, in your entertainments, and what you do with your physical body. Now, we are not expecting perfection here in any way, shape, or form. We understand the conditioning processes that you've all been through. You've been taught to have certain foods. You've been taught to behave in certain ways. But every single one of you that is here now has enough awareness to amp up your game a little bit. That's all we're asking you to do. If you're having 2 glasses of water a day, have 3. If you've given up most of your television, have 1 day without any television at all. You won't die. And see how you feel. See what you realize. See what fills that space, that empty space. And it may just be that you take a nap, and that is okay. So supporting yourself here now is very, very important. Forget about the bigger world here. Now, that sounds not like a very Jesus-y thing to say, but this world is created from each one of you doing your internal work or not doing your internal work. And now is the time for us to really bring home that truth to you, that if you have a quiet day of contemplation, reading, walking in the woods, napping, helping a friend, helping yourself, you are doing the best thing you can for everyone. If you are rushing off to the mall to buy something that you think will make you feel better, think twice before you do that. If you are cruising through the channels on your television and you can't find anything to watch and you settle upon something that isn't really what you want, question yourself and say, why am I wasting my powerful consciousness on this dribble? Why am I not just turning everything off, lighting a candle, and just being peaceful so that I can feel, discern, investigate what wants to bubble to the surface? Because if you turn off all that stimulation, that's exactly what's going to happen. So now this is a perfect segue. Now, because we are on a roll, we will say, we are going to segue into the question about addictions, because this is exactly what addictions do and are for. They are to distract you from your feelings. So the question was, what tangible, specific actions can be taken to deal with addictions? The first thing you must understand is that an addiction is a replacement that has worked in the past to distract the mind from suffering. So at some point in the past, the substance or the activity was used initially because the mind was suffering. And what happens when you go to the same thing over and over again, and this is why some of you have trouble getting rid of your televisions, because these pathways in your physical brain, these habits of behavior, are deeply ingrained, not only in your mental structures, but in your physiological brain structures. There are synapses and neural pathways that have been developed over the years of keeping going to a particular activity, subject, person, place, or thing to make yourself feel better. So what you have to understand is that you are going to have, in the initial phases of letting go of an addiction, an overwhelming urge to repeat the behavior. But it is just an urge, and that urge can be overridden. It's like when you have a piece of chocolate cake in front of you and you've already had your piece. Your body wants more sugar. It loves the flavor. But you know that if you have another piece, you're going to feel sick. The decision maker in you, that is the wise part of you, says, there's a part of me that wants that flavor, that sugar, but I know I'm going to feel bad. So this is the part of the mind that you must pay attention to when you are quitting addictions. You must say to yourself, repeating this behavior, this addictive behavior, is not going to bring me what I want. How do I know? Because it has never brought me what I want in the long term. In the short term, it brings me relief from agitation or anxiety or loneliness or self-deprecating thoughts, suffering of some kind. But what you want to now do, as becoming accomplished students and accomplished teachers, you are all learning to be teachers. What you want to do now is to say, this is a decision I must make. I am in charge of my hand. I am in charge of what it does. I am in charge of what food it puts in my mouth. This is not something that I am powerless over. You must have this conversation with yourself. You must start the transformation in your mind. You must listen to what happens in the mind when you don't go to the addiction. You must be willing to sit with your feelings, and you must be willing to pay attention to the thoughts that are generating the feelings. If you aren't willing to do that, then you are unconscious. That is what an addiction is. It is unconsciousness demonstrating itself. It is a refusal to attend to the unloving, untruthful thoughts in the mind that are causing your suffering. So there are two ways that you address an addiction. You start to have a different conversation in your mind, and whenever the addiction comes up at 10 o'clock in the morning, you may not be indulging in that addiction till later on in the day. But if the idea of that addiction comes up at 10 o'clock in the morning, you say to yourself, that behavior will not bring me what I want. I want peace of mind. I want health, and I want a conscious life. So whenever it comes up, you say that to yourself. Instead of saying, oh, I can't wait to indulge later, even though I know I shouldn't, that's permission. You're giving yourself permission earlier in the day, many, many times, to indulge in whatever the behavior is. So this is where mastery of mind is so powerful in dealing with addictions, because you are the decision maker. That is the only place that you can assert yourself. You are the decision maker. Now, if you choose to be the decision maker in favor of the addictive substance, person, place, thing, or behavior, then you are using your free will and you must accept it. There is nobody else there. There is nobody else there except you and the decision. And you are the one that must use your free will to make that decision. So when you say, I'm powerless over this addiction, that is exactly what you are admitting to. You are admitting to allowing unconsciousness to rule your behavior. Now, this may seem unsympathetic, but that is what is happening. You are abdicating your decision-making powers, your ability to create. That is where your ability to create resides, in your decision-making powers. And this is what your society has done to you through conditioning. So, for example, you will see that in movies, they are often drinking alcohol. You will see in movies the shots and how movie shots are set up, that often the alcohol is in a place of prominence. When people are having a conversation, the main character will offer a drink to the other person. None of these things are accidental. Why? Because alcohol is one of the most sanctioned addictions on your planet, and it has been made to look fashionable. It has been made to look intelligent through wine connoisseurs and wine collection, these kinds of things. It has been made to look powerful. The lead characters in your dramas on televisions and movies will often be drinking throughout the production. And so there is a deep unconscious programming active in your mind all the time. And this is why governments procure alcohol and control it, because it is one of the best ways to control the population. When you are unhappy with your job, when you are unhappy with your relationship, when you are unhappy with your financial situation, there is nothing that changes your mind quicker than a drink. And so it is very, very important for you to understand that the addictions that you have become susceptible to are there on purpose, because they take over the mind and you seem to lose your free will. When you have your free will, you will begin to create the life you want and make decisions that are in your best interests, not in the best interests of the ruling classes of your world. Now, these ruling classes of your world are a symptom. They are not the primary problem. The primary problem is that you do not understand your creative power, and you have had, through repeated programs of indoctrination, messages sent to you about your powerlessness, not your influence, not your creative abilities, not your ability to bring into manifestation whatever it is you want to bring into manifestation. So you seem to have lost your free will, and you seem to have become a victim of systems, but you have not. You have made choices every single day to indulge in whatever it is you indulge in. If you indulge in A Course in Miracles lessons and reading and the practices that we encourage, you are going to be living a different life a year down the line than if you indulge in what your society tells you to indulge in, even though in the short term, some of those things can make you feel relief. So you have to own your own power as an addicted person. You have to say, I'm turning the remote on, nobody else is. Let me put that remote down and sit for a moment and ask myself, what am I actually seeking here? I'm bored. I'm lonely. Let me address the real issue. I'm bored. Let me stimulate my intelligence, my creativity, my self-expression. I'm lonely. Let me give someone a call and ask them if they'd like to go for a walk with me or have a cup of tea with me or some such thing. As soon as you feel the urge for your addiction, you become present, you put it down, whatever it is, and you ask yourself, what am I really looking for? I'm looking for stimulation. I don't feel alive. What else can I do to make myself feel alive? How about going outside? How about a brisk walk? How about going into your garden and pulling out some weeds? This is life. You must also remember that the lifestyles of the rich and famous that many of you have grown up lusting after are devices that get you lusting after money and that get you going to work longer and in jobs that you don't particularly want to go to get those material possessions. You have to be aware of the many layers of influence that are at play. So we will give this being here a little break so she can have a cup of tea. So take a minute of quiet while she gives her voice a little rest, and we shall return. That's exactly what I need to do. It's a bit disconcerting having so many people watch you drink. Let me just see what's going on in the chat room here. Yes, Annegret just showed up. Hi, Annegret. All right, that was a lot of words. So as Jesus mentioned, I have been feeling quite tired and quite uninspired, to be perfectly honest. But because of these teachings, I've been being pretty kind to myself and understanding that we have to give ourselves time to adjust to these energies. And I've been looking at a lot of information on YouTube. I'm often on there, you know, posting a video or whatever, and just seeing, you know, these comments about lethargy or flu-like symptoms. So I certainly have been feeling it, and but I've been expecting it because, of course, they've said for many months now that we're going to have these feelings. So be easy on yourselves. The other question that came up was about dreams and dream life. Hi, Renee. Hi, Holly. Susan. All of these lovely, familiar people. Okay, so let's bring Ananda through and see what they say about dreams, our dream life, dream realities. This is a fascinating subject. We're with you again, dear ones. Of course, as always, when we arrive, we like to thank all of you for showing up. As you join with us in these recordings, whether they are live or whether they are recorded, we are with you. We are with you in that moment of information being transmitted. Time and space do not work the way you think they do. You are in your sensory receptors and in your physical body, the seemingly isolated body, seemingly so limited. It is an illusory separation. You really aren't separated from each other. Your thoughts can transmit around the planet. Your energies, your healing ideas, your hateful ideas can be transmitted around the planet. And that is why joining together in this way is so powerful, because you really get a sense of the physical, energetic consciousness community that is being created. You are realizing that now when you see a name typed in the chat room, you know who that person is. You know what their lives are like. You know what their issues are. And you have great love for each other. And this is a healing group for that reason, because you look upon even your names in print. We see it, we feel it. You look upon each other's names in print with love, with acceptance, with excitement, with joy. What a simple demonstration of the power of healing the mind. Now, the mind is also not the way you think about it. You think, many of you have this idea that the mind is limited to the physical structure inside the head, or that focus there. That is the portal through which a lot of information comes. So it seems to be focused there. But it is just like a plug in your sink. The water will flow through that plug. It's a gathering device. It's a focusing device. But that is not where the water's coming from. It's coming from the tap, and the tap is connected to systems that far exceed your simple understanding, whether it be springs that are tapped into or rainwater catchment systems. The water that runs down that sinkhole is not coming from one place. Neither are your thoughts, ideas, inspirations, or dreams. They're coming from many, many places. So the mind that you, or the consciousness that you think of as yourself, has this thing that it does. It gets tired and it has to sleep. And you witness in your psychological experiments that if people don't sleep, they can become crazy. They can become hallucinatory. They can become very confused. And it is an overwhelming urge to sleep. Why does this happen? Well, you are in separation in your ego mind. When you are in this body, when you are projecting, well, that is what you're doing all the time. You're projecting all of the time. You are repressing things a lot of the time. You are blocking things a lot of the time. You are unaware of things a lot of the time. We will say that there is a small window of visible audio experience that you can access with the systems that you have present in your body in the form of consciousness that you have now. These will expand as you expand your consciousness. But for the uneducated being, they have a very, very limited window into what they think is everything. They think that the stars they see are the only things up in the sky, but there are many, many other things up in the sky that are just out of the visible range of light, that are just above the visible, the audio sound that your ear can pick up. So when you look out of this consciousness, you think that is everything that's there. No, it's not. Not only is it not in reality, we're going to use the word reality as you use it. It exists in this three-dimensional time-space reality. But there are many, many things in you that are beneath the surface. So you have the social face, but you also have the feelings and ideas and beliefs that are either unconscious or controlled and repressed. This is a very, very tiring process for your consciousness to maintain. It's exhausting, in fact, and many of you will have naps. You will feel very heavy in your bodies. And this is because your consciousness is doing so much to maintain the experience that you are having. Now, when you go into sleep, you go above this physical material world. The conditioned mind, the educated mind, the socialized mind, the religious mind, the encultured mind, that means everything, the mind that has been taught everything about this time-space reality subsides. It now becomes quiet because it is not needed. It is not in that realm anymore. It needs a break. So that is what sleep is. It is essentially your ego consciousness taking a break because it cannot keep up. It cannot keep all of those plates spinning. You remember those circus performers that have all those plates spinning, and you see the person running around from plate to plate, spinning, and one begins to wobble, and then they have to run back. This is what the ego is doing all the time. It's protecting you. It's observing things. It's ignoring things. It's repressing things. It's judging things. It's controlling things. It's attacking things. You can feel the tiredness just when we put it in those words. So it cannot keep it up because it is requiring so much energy. And so once the ego mind shuts down, your frequency goes up. And there are other dimensions that you begin to be able to access. So, for example, if we are working with one of you that has a very, very strong ego, we will not try that much to communicate with you in the daytime because of all the plates that you've got spinning and the incredible effort and the running around and the agitation and the anxiety and the fear that is generating that exhausting action. We will not try and influence you that much. We will just let you do your thing for your waking hours, and we will wait for a nap. We will wait for you to fall asleep in exhaustion. Now, generally, when you fall asleep and the ego consciousness subsides, activity in the mind, which is not contained in your head, by the way, it is one mind. And this is something that's very, very tricky for you to understand because you believe that you all have individual minds, but you are all, remember the image of the octopus? You are the tip of one tentacle, but you are all connected to the greater mind, the greater consciousness of the octopus. We'll use that imagery because it is very, very good at illustrating this. You seem to be separate, far away from that consciousness, the tip of the tentacle, but you are not. So when you fall asleep, the exhaustion of your egoic practices are what force you to sleep in that heavy way where you cannot keep your eyes open. You will notice that as beings become more evolved, they need less sleep. In fact, some accomplished yogis who are masters of their mind don't ever really sleep. They go up the leg of the octopus and they hang around up in that higher consciousness without having to let go of the heavy ego drudgery, because they have already let go of the ego drudgery. They have stepped back from judgment. They've stepped back from fear. They've disciplined their minds. They've chosen peace. They are not as physically active as many of you, as many of you are. So one of the ways that you can become less tired physically is to do the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Obviously, that's one of the ways that you can reduce that exertion, that tiredness, that need to constantly be pushing and pulling and controlling and arguing. As you see increasing peace, you will have more recollection of your dream time because there's less contrast. So a lot of beings that are deeply immersed in the ego don't remember their dreams because there is such a heaviness about their consciousness. So as you explore and become more peaceful and practice your forgiveness and relax more, become less fearful, you are going to, ironically enough, remember more of your dream time, and you will have more vivid dreams where the messages that we are giving everybody are recalled because you are more in alignment with those frequencies. Now, there are many things that can happen in dream time. You can travel to other parts of your current time-space reality because your consciousness is not attached to your body, even though you believe it to be. But once the ego consciousness is asleep, it is less active, less controlling, less fearful, you can wander off and investigate landscapes, countries, people, relationships that are existing in your time-space reality. But there are many different timelines, different dimensions, none of which you really understand in this heavy earthbound materialistic state of mind. But as you raise your frequency over decades, now this is always something that is a little overwhelming for those of you that are relatively new to these studies, but we want you to understand that the many decades of indoctrination that you have been through must be undone by a focused, dedicated practice over years. It is not something that happens in a week or a month or a year. It takes time. But what you can begin to do is to ask to remember your dreams, because you are curious about what you're being taught, what you're experiencing there. For the unconscious, ego-driven person, they aren't curious because they don't believe in anything that's not physically, materially manifested. That is one of the signs of an ego mind. It only is interested in bodies. It's only interested in things, in stuff, in houses, in the tangible. As your consciousness evolves, you become more and more educated in truth, which is that the physical, tangible world arises from the intangible. So if you want to master the tangible world, the material world, where do you go to do that? You go to the non-physical. So there are dimensions above your consciousness reality that higher frequency beings live in. You can't see them, you can't hear them. They can interact with you, but you can't interact with them. Why? Because higher frequencies can always encounter lower frequencies, but lower frequencies, being denser, cannot access the higher frequencies. So you can always go down a little bit, but it's hard to go up a lot. But you can go up a little bit. So what we want you to understand is that dream time is very, very valuable, because you have access to environments, education, communications that the boundaries and the limiting beliefs and ideas of your ego will not allow. So you want to get excited about dreaming. You want to see it as very, very valuable. The other thing that you can use dreaming for is to give yourself an example of what it's like within the mind that is not in this reality. So, for example, if you're having a dream about an old lover of yours, and it's a very beautiful dream with nice feelings and emotions involved, and you see them and you look at them and it seems so real, what you are getting a demonstration of is that you can see and feel without the physical body's senses. And this is good evidence for you to have in understanding how the mind projects, how it creates images, how it can bring into your experience things that are seemingly not real, but they are real. Your dream time is no less real than your ego's imaginings. And this is the most important thing from you to take from this answer. Value your dreams as much as you value your physical experience. It is of equal value, and at times more valuable, because you're not so limited, you're not so restricted by your conditionings and those limiting ideas of your society, the fears that come up when you think about breaking the rules or breaking free. These are some very, very tight constraints that you labor under in your ego's experience. So one of the things that you can do is you can begin to set up your dream time before you go to sleep. You can ask us, and you can ask Jesus to engage with you in your dream time in a way that you can understand, and in a way that you can remember when you wake up. And you can have a dream journal that is a demonstration of your curiosity about your dreams. When you buy a dream journal and put it next to your bed, or recording devices work as well, but don't use your cell phones. They should not be by the head of your bed ever. And if you have your cell phone near the head of your bed, it should be off completely. If it's on airplane mode, it should be away from you still. It's still an electrical disturbance. It's still an irritant to the electromagnetic systems of your body. You're buying a journal and asking to remember your dreams is a powerful decision. Again, we go back to the previous answer. You are the decision maker. If you say, I don't remember my dreams, I never remember my dreams, guess what? You're never going to remember your dreams. So that can be a mantra that you go to bed with. Say, I will remember the dreams of this evening easily and happily, and I'll be able to wake up in the middle of the night and write them down without any problem at all. And if you start saying things like that to yourself, you will have much better dream recall. The other thing that we want you to know about dreams is that they are very, very creative, and that often you test out things in the dream time that you want to bring into physical manifestation. So it's a practice place where you can try out some ideas, where you can try out some inspirations. But because many of you don't remember your dreams because of dismissing them or saying you don't remember them, you don't get to see that, I dreamt about that and now it's happening in my life. Because in the dream state, your consciousness liked the outcome, it liked the experience, and it decided that it was now going to bring it into this reality. Now, you would be shocked if you saw the number of realities and versions of you that you have access to. Again, this is something that is a side effect of the very, very materialistic society that you live in, and the punishing ways you've been trained out of creativity, out of dreaming, out of daydreaming, these kinds of things. These are all little inhibitors that prevent you from exploring these many levels of consciousness. So this is a place where you can begin to experiment. You can begin to ask for clear dreams. You can begin to keep a record of the information that comes in your dreams. And you can begin to envision that which you would like to experience in this solid lower frequency reality. Begin to ask for dreams about it so you can practice, so that you can see how it feels to have those experiences. Now, dreaming is one of the abilities and one of the areas that is going to become more expanded as these energies increase. Because it has been dismissed, because it has been poo-pooed as unreal, you can guarantee that it's very valuable. So remember, if your society doesn't value it, it's valuable. This is always a good rule of thumb. If your society promotes it, it's probably not good for you. If it devalues it, it's probably good for you. So this world in which you live is a world of separation. It is a world of fear. It is a world where love is lacking. So remember that when you see the indoctrinations, when you see the urgings to do certain things, remember, if it's constantly coming at you as a suggestion, it's probably not that good for you. We will return shortly. All right. Now you're going to have to forgive me here because I've got to get a bit closer to the screen. Let's see. Thank you, Ananda. Okay. First person to post a question gets it answered. So get on that keyboard, folks. I apologize for the question page not being up. As I said on the Facebook page, the new website is being developed and the old one is it's functioning, obviously. It's a beautifully built one. But with the updating of the questions pages and these sorts of things, this was quite a complicated task, and the new website's going to be much easier for me to do that. What? Okay, let me just move this over here so that I can see. What happens when you're enlightened? And then what happens after that? Okay, that's the first question I saw. So let me just have a sip. Okay, let's see what Jesus says, because apparently he was enlightened. Okay. You are blessed beings. You are blessed beings indeed. You are originally from that which you would call love. That was the generating force that brought your consciousness into being. You think of yourselves as individuals, but really you are not. You are all beautiful leaves on the tree of consciousness. Which leaf on a tree is more important? Well, there isn't one that's more important. The tree is not beautiful until all of those leaves are appreciated and are in concert with each other. There is one tree and thousands upon thousands of leaves, and that really is the model for your consciousness. So you are a leaf. And what happens to leaves? What happens to the tree as it grows? It goes through seasons. The leaves are buds, and then they turn into bright green, fresh leaves. They mature through the summer. They peak at the perfect time. And as the autumn comes, they begin to wither and die. And then they fall off, and they fall to the ground, and they make compost for the tree. And what happens again in the spring? After what seems to be death, the death of a leaf, there is another bursting forth of that life force. And the leaves are feeding the tree. The leaves are transforming light into information, which is food for the tree. And so the tree grows. Every single leaf is contributing to the life of that tree, to the information and the food and the nutrition and the growth that that tree needs. One of your incarnations is one of those leaves. It is not valueless. It is incredibly valued, because each season that tree / consciousness grows because of the leaves' communal effort. So if one leaf isn't there, there's not a great effect. But if there is a disease or an infestation, the tree begins to suffer because the leaves are not contributing healthy, nutritious consciousness to that experience. So if you think of one incarnation as the leaf that lives for one season, you will look at the great oak trees or the great deciduous trees of your world, and you will see that a tree like that can live thousands of summers, hundreds of summers. And so too do you. You live for hundreds of experiences that are all valid. Whether you are a pauper or a king, a prostitute, a police officer, a movie star, or a streetwalker, it doesn't matter. You are having a valid experience, and over time, you learn more and more. You experience more and more, and you come to understand what is going on. Now, in your linear, time-focused, egoic world, you believe that these are all happening one after the other, but they are simultaneous. Time does not exist in the way you think it does, but you cannot, with your time-focused sensory device, the body, you cannot really comprehend timelessness. It happens sometimes when you drift off into reverie, where you leave this time-space reality and you go into another one temporarily, where you are imagining something, and then you come back and you say, oh my goodness, where did I go? Well, you went into another reality. You actually went into what you would call another dimension, another time. Sometimes when you have what you consider past life recollections, you're doing the same thing. You're drifting sideways into another page of the book. Think about the leaves of a book. Interesting, leaves of a tree, leaves of a book. There is a coincidence there. The print on one page is right next to the print on the next page, but they are separate. And this is another way that you can think of your lifetimes. They are one book. They are the you that you think you are. Each page a different experience, so close to each other, touching in fact. They are almost one, but they are distinct. And that is really what your lifetimes are like. What is enlightenment? Well, enlightenment is finishing the book. Enlightenment is when these physical incarnations are no longer necessary, because you have had enough experience, you have had enough misunderstandings, you have had enough trials and tribulations that you begin to shift your consciousness towards reunification. Remember, the separated pages of the book aren't really separated. They are contained within one book. And you are contained within one consciousness, ultimately so. But as long as you think you are page 17, you are in separation. When you think you are page 23, you are in separation. You are the individual leaf of that book. But you are the whole book. And enlightenment is when you come to understand that you are the whole book. How do you do that? You reintegrate the mind. You stop accusing. You understand that this is all consciousness playing out, that there really is nobody else out there, that every experience you have is an internal one. Every moment of suffering is caused by a lack of love. When you begin to learn that to add love to yourself, add love to your thoughts, to direct your mind to loving things all the time, relieves suffering. Once you get onto that game, then you start to realize that this incarnation is merely one page in the book. And your last incarnation is when you master that. The final page in your book, when you get to the end and you close it up and you say, what a wonderful story that was. That is what enlightenment is. It is the reunification, the complete understanding that there is no bad guy out there, that there is no devil, that there is no need to fear, that everything is of mind. It is a great consciousness experiment, experience going on, and everything and everyone is valid. Nobody dies, nobody is punished for eternity, and you all in the end come to that place. So how does that look? Well, it is almost impossible for you to understand. There are some of you that have had experiences of oneness, complete, direct, conscious contact with the next level of your consciousness evolution. And some of you are given these experiences to encourage you along the path of spiritual evolution. This being had experiences like that, and it was such an enlightening experience, pardon the pun, but it made her realize that there was something going on far greater than this separated body, far greater than this individual leaf in the book. She had a visceral, physical, mental, and emotional experience of unity consciousness. And that experience gave her the dedication to keep going with her forgiveness practice. But it is beyond words. The reunification, the dropping away of the ego, letting go of all your fears, letting go of all your belief in separation, letting go of all your hatreds, letting go of all your needs of everything is impossible for us to explain to you. You must experience it. And some of you will experience it in this incarnation. You will practice your forgiveness practice enough so that your frequency is accessible by those higher realms. Remember, the higher realms can come down. It's not easy for you to go up, but you can go up in small increments, as we discuss many, many times throughout these teachings. So what you want to do is you want to understand that your path now, if you've never had a revelatory experience of oneness, is an act of faith. You will, as you practice these principles of forgiveness and loving kindness, creativity and health-focused, loving-focused thoughts, you will begin to have a new experience, and you will begin to be able to say, 2 years ago, I had much more suffering than I have now. Look at the leaps and bounds that I have made in these last 2 years. I've even got relationships with family members that I couldn't talk to before. If that has happened in 2 years, what's going to happen in 2 decades? What am I going to be able to experience as my own personal consciousness experience in 20 years if I keep doing this? This is what we are encouraging you to do. Enlightenment is not the end goal, we will say. Letting go of your suffering is the goal. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to punish yourself. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. What we want you to focus on now is not enlightenment. What we want you to focus on now is living a good life, being happy, being joyful, following your passions, falling in love with yourself, falling in love with life, enjoying it, playing, creating, inspiring. These are the things that we want you to focus on now. People who chase enlightenment don't know what they're chasing. They're chasing something that has nothing really to do with the level of consciousness that they are at now. They are seeking to skip the living in a body part. And this is not your fault. This is what has been taught to you. Let's leave this earth and go to heaven. And ultimately, that is the goal. But you don't get there by focusing on that. You get there by practicing your forgiveness practice on the ground, in the timeline in which you find yourself. But you have the ability to open many, many doorways, energetic doorways, perceptual doorways in this incarnation here and now. So we want you to be patient with yourselves. We don't want you to dismiss today, because today is the place where you will make the forgiveness practice and the relaxation practice and the creative practice for the next step in your evolution. And for those of you that are stressed out, there are some of you that are very stressed out by your spiritual practice. You are going about it the wrong way. We want you to relax. We want you to say, I have all the time in the world. This does not mean that you're not diligent. There's a difference between being stressed out, anxious, goal-oriented, in a hurry, worried. That's a very different frequency than being relaxed and diligent. Relaxed and diligent means whenever you feel yourself going down in frequency, you think, oh, what am I judging here? Where am I being unloving? Oh, there it is. I did judge that person as being less valuable because of X, Y, Z. let me just send them a prayer and let me get back on track again. This calm and centered way of dealing with the upsets in your life as they arise, forgiveness practice, forgive them for they know not what they do. This is a very good phrase for all of you to use, whether it's the teenage children that didn't do their dishes, whether it's the partner that drives too fast, whether it's the parent that is nagging you or trying to control you. You can be forgiving and assert yourself and say, it's okay. I know you're worried and that's why you're trying to control this thing, but it's good. I'm going to be all right. I'm not going to let you control me. And then you ask the question, why is the control issue showing up in my life? Where am I controlling? Let me take a look at that. So you forgive the reflection and then you turn it around and say, where do I do that? Am I ever controlling? Oh my goodness, I'm so controlling with myself. That's why it's being shown to me in the reflection, because I need to look at this. Enlightenment is the end result of doing that over and over and over again. So you don't get to skip any steps. You don't get to rush it. And that's why we say relax, because it's in the relaxed mind, the non-agitated mind, the non-judgmental mind, that you will see when you're triggered, that you'll see when you go into judgment. If you're anxious all the time, stressed out, pushing yourself, you're in a constant state of stress. So you can't tell when something comes up. It's just stress upon stress. So you actually make less progress. So for those of you that feel stressed out, stop doing it the way you're doing it. Slow down. Take a seat on the bench at the park and watch the birds and the squirrels and the children playing for a little while, and just see that when you slow down, when you stop, the world does not fall apart. And that gives space and time for realization, self-realizations to bubble to the surface. So the more you're on your phones, the more you're on your computers, the more you're on your televisions, the less self-realization happens, because there's no room. So as we began this conversation, we want to end this conversation in the same way. We want you all now to create space. And in that space, when something surfaces, a memory, an inspiration, a dream from last night, we want you to write it down and spend a little bit of time investigating it. Not with the harsh, pushy attitude of the ego, but just, oh, isn't that interesting? I just remembered something from my childhood. I wonder what that memory is about. Let me go back in time and see if I can see how I felt at that time. Oh, I was very frightened. Interesting. What was I frightened about? Oh, my mother was very angry with me. What was she angry with you about? Oh, I was expressing myself. Okay. Thank you, memory. Bring that memory now to the present moment and ask yourself, am I afraid of expressing myself? Oh, interesting. Yes, I am. Okay, that memory was a little signpost for me to pay attention to the fact that I'm not expressing myself. This is how you can use memory to enhance your enlightenment process. So, enlightenment is not the end game. Enlightenment means you move from the heavy physical, material, reincarnational world on this three-dimensional plane, and you move into higher realms where the work continues. So do not think that enlightenment means the work is over. There are multiplicities of levels. There are multiplicities of frequencies, and you will always have assignments. You will always have things that you are working on and developing and nurturing and creating and enjoying. So don't focus on the end game. Focus on today in all its fullness, in all its beauty, and know that today you have the opportunity to let something go that's not serving you. Today you have the opportunity to forgive something that happened long, long ago. Today you have the opportunity to appreciate the opportunities you have in this time-space reality to elevate your frequency so that you can move through your experiences in a productive and creative and loving way. All we are trying to get you to do through these transmissions and through these teachings is to use the eternal now to squeeze the juice out of that experience. It is experience. Remember, each of those leaves on the tree feeds the tree. Each leaf fluttering in the sunlight and the breeze is transforming intelligence and information into a usable substance for that tree to grow and expand. So see yourself as a leaf fluttering in the breeze and the sunlight. What experience are you having? Is it a free and joyful knowing that you're doing your job exactly as it is supposed to be, consciousness experiencing itself? Or have you become infected with some disease that is distorting you and closing you and preventing you from doing your job? Your job is to be you, experiencing the eternal now, transforming that information and giving it to that which you would call God, the universe, all that is, in a never-ending flow of appreciation and love. So, we want to thank all of you for this conversation today. We want to thank all of you for the work you do on your minds. We want to thank all of you for the kindnesses that you are beginning to express in thought and word and deed. We want to thank all of you for shifting the frequency of this planet. This gathering is powerful indeed. There are many gatherings such as this taking place around the planet. The networks and the focal points of these communications are expanding day by day by day. And as you all know, you don't want to leave it. You don't want it to be over. You want to feel the joy. You want to feel the connection. You can feel that there is a transformation taking place. And indeed there is. And when you do observe the newscasts from around your planet, remember the frequency is going up, and so the old systems must begin to subside. And so that is what you are going to witness on your televisions and your radios. You are going to witness the old subsiding, and you are going to witness the new growing. So make sure that when you witness an old system subsiding, that you don't let fear win over, that you go, oh, there it is right there. We were told this was going to happen. Let's look and what's the new system that's going to replace that one. So for example, the demonstrations against your oil companies, being sued by cities, having pipelines blocked by demonstrators. These are some of the old systems being challenged. What we want you to do is look at that and go, that's wonderful. That old system is dying. Let me invest my energy, my curiosity, not in hating the old system, but in supporting the replacement for that old system. So if you have money that you'd like to invest it in the new systems, the new energy systems, the companies that are promoting green, the companies that are reclaiming land, recycling old garbage, these kinds of things. Don't dwell on the old system, because then you are giving it your energy. And if you are angry at it, you are actually feeding the old system, because you are giving it low frequency power. And that's what it lives on. So this is a very, very important thing for you to monitor in your own consciousness. The same thing with personal changes that you want to make. Lamenting the sicknesses in your body is going to give them more low frequency energy. It's going to keep them going. Do whatever you can to shift your consciousness away from focusing on what is wrong with your body. If you've got a sore left shoulder, ask the question, yes, indeed, what center is that? What is that telling me? Well, that is the heart. Where is my heart closed? Where am I unloving? Let me work on that. Let me not lament the shoulder, but thank it for communicating to me. Go then to the heart center and say, where is my heart hurt? I have an old resentment from an ex-husband or an ex-wife. Okay, that's my forgiveness practice. These hurts, these old systems, they are hurts too. The polluting systems, the frightening systems, the murderous systems, they are wounds. Don't dwell on them. Go to the healing, go to the love, go to the light, and get outside, turn your phones off, turn your computers off, get some exercise, talk to people in real time, hug someone, be creative, enjoy your life, and take each moment as an opportunity for good, or you can choose, you have free will to do the same old things you've always done. Each moment is an opportunity to open for growth, for education, for excellence, for enjoyment, for joy, for peace. So many choices that you can make. You don't need to struggle. You don't need to do it the old way. You don't need to lament the past. You don't need to worry about what anyone else is doing. Focus on your own expansion, your own evolution, and know that, yes, your body will go through some aches and pains and some challenges over the next little while. But love it. Thank it for giving you an opportunity to focus and to experience life in this form for now. You are evolving. Your planet's evolving. Your society's evolving. The communications between all of us are evolving. We want you to be excited. We want you to be immersed in that breaking out of the box, because that is exactly what's happening. You are all breaking out of the box. Your society is breaking out of jail, and you are all going to have some very, very interesting experiences and things to observe and to participate in over the next few years. We will speak to you again soon. Woo. Wow. Okay. How are we doing for time here? Oh, 12:27. That goes so fast, doesn't it? Okay. So in terms of rewatching this, I would suggest to all of you that you check this link back right after this broadcast, the link that you were given for this, and see if you can watch the replay of it. And if you can, maybe you can just make a post on the Facebook page and just let me know. And if that doesn't work, then I will figure out how to send a link out to you all so that you can see this. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, everyone, for joining in this broadcast today. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.